Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
What is going on, friends? Welcome into another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I am your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. It is Monday, March 15th, 2021 in the snowy city of Chicago. Hopefully you all had a wonderful, safe weekend, and it is time for madness. It is time to see brackets get busted. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to March Madness, and here on Sports from the Couch, we are going to make our predictions, and you can watch them on Facebook, on YouTube, or listen to them right here wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you all so much for making us a part of your day. We are super excited. It's one of the best times of the sports calendar, and to have a year where we actually get to make brackets, where we get to watch some college basketball, where we get to see the future of the NBA play. It is exciting, especially coming off of what was no tournament last year. And two state schools locally in the tournament, they could potentially meet in the second round of the tourney. Games are on Friday and Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The world is upside down, but we got ourselves some March Madness. Before we get to everything, make sure you guys are following us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can like the network, the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk and at Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. It really helps us grow the brand. You can support the network at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Friends, it is almost time to make our picks, and if you are on YouTube or on Facebook, you can actually watch us do it live, and if you're listening to us, thank you so much. So before we actually make our picks, I went on ESPN.com because there's a lot of facts and stats that you could see from this tournament that if you're putting some money on, or if you're trying to win in your office or in your family pool, you want to be and have as much of an advantage as you can, because it's going to be a random field. It's a crazy year, and there are just some numbers and stats that I wanted to get to. So let's start with what I saw on ESPN. This is March Madness bracket facts for the 2021 NCAA tournament. This is from Keith Lipscomb, all right? And if you say something like, will Gonzaga completes an unbeaten season? This is the first NCAA tournament without Duke and Kentucky since 1976. That's also the last time we had a team cap off a perfect season with a national championship, as Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers finished 32-0. I don't know if members of that team celebrate like players from the 72 Miami Dolphins, the last NFL team to go undefeated, when the final team beaten loses each season. But if so, they've had to wait well into March a few times in recent years. That's the case this year, as Gonzaga, the number 1 overall seed, enters the NCAA tournament 26-0. Since the Indiana team selected the deal, this is the 5th time a team has entered the tourney without a loss. Obviously, none of the previous 4 won the title, but 3 of them made it to the Final Four. Only Larry Bird and his Indiana State Sycamores came up just 1 win short when they lost to Magic Johnson and Michigan State in 1979. And also, you should note that I don't think in 72, there were 64, 69, 68 teams. I think it was like 32. So something to think about. Curse of the overall number 1 seed. As if Gonzaga doesn't have enough history working against it, it has been 6 years since the last time the number 1 overall seed reached the Final Four, and 8 years since it won the championship. In 2019, Duke survived UCF in the second round and Virginia Tech in the Sweet 16, before losing to Michigan State in the Elite Eight. In the 2 prior years, Virginia became the first number 1 team to lose to a 16 seed, and Villanova lost in the second round. In the 16 years the selection committee has announced an overall number 1 seed, that team has failed to make it past the first weekend more often, 4 times, than it has won the national championship, 3 times. Why history says Alabama won't reach the Final Four. And if you're wondering why I even bring up Alabama, a lot of people have them as dark horses. A lot of people have this team as a real sleeper. So let's see what they have to say about this. If you're looking for a high seed to bounce before we get too deep into the madness, there's some historical data that points in the direction of a particular team. Number 2, Alabama. Let's be clear. This has nothing to do with Nate Oates or the talented squad that he coaches. The Crimson Tide is dangerous and amongst the most fun to watch team this year. This is simply about how they were perceived entering the season. Alabama is the only team in this year's tournament to field a top 2 seed and reside in the top 10 of the AP poll after entering the season unranked. None of the 32 teams to fit this profile in the modern tournament era have reached the Final Four, and 56% of them didn't survive the first 2 rounds. Virginia's first round loss to 16th seed UMBC in 2018 came under these circumstances as the most memorable example. Specifically, the struggles of the number 2 seeds in the category are quite alarming, as exactly 2/3 of them, 14 of 21, didn't make it out of the first weekend. Last year, Dayton and San Diego State would have met this criteria, but sadly, we'll never know how things would have played out. Here's one for all the local people. Big Ten in uncharted territories. Excuse me for that, guys. The Big Ten received a pair of number 1 seeds, Illinois and Michigan, and a pair of number 2 seeds, Ohio State and Iowa this year. It is the first time a conference has earned 4 top 2 seeds in a single NCAA tournament. 7 previous times a conference has grabbed 3 top 2 seeds, but the eventual champion came from that conference in only 3 of those 7 instances, and all of them by the ACC. So those are a lot of different ways you can look at it, like an at-large team with a losing conference record. Maryland and Michigan State, both of which were 9-11 in Big Ten play, received at-large bids this year. They were the only 2 teams with losing conference records to do so. Each year, there's a debate whether these teams deserve to make the field. But for what it's worth, they haven't been automatic one-and-dones. Of the 45 previous teams with losing conference records to get at-large bids since 1985, more than half, 23, won a first-round game. However, only 6 of them won again to reach the Sweet 16. And losing your first conference tournament game equals no championship. So there's a lot to go into, and I suggest you guys read the rest. But with that, let's jump really fast to the local teams. And this is from The Athletic, and it breaks down every one of these games. And this is the number 1 seed Illinois versus the number 16 seed Drexel, which will be on Friday on TBS. This is the breakdown. Illinois had covered in 6 straight games entering the Big Ten final against Ohio State, a game they led by as many as 17 points as a 6.5-point favorite. Drexel is 5-2 against the spread as an underdog, and over has hit in 5 of their last 6 games. And for Loyola versus Georgia Tech, the 8-9, the only game the Ramblers weren't favored in this season was December 15th at Wisconsin. The Badgers won 77-63, covering a 9-point spread. The Yellow Jackets took advantage of Virginia having to drop out of the ACC tournament, but they entered the dance with 8 straight wins. They covered in 7 of those 8 wins as well. So there we have it. Those are some of the insider ideas of these games, some of the stats of the NCAA tournament. But without further ado, it is time, guys. Let us jump into the bracket. And if you are following us all over the universe, wherever you get your favorite podcast, if you're listening to us, jump on over to YouTube or Facebook, because we are going to jump and make these predictions. Here's a quick transition, guys. Oh my God, don't look at it. Woo! All right, let us do it. And we will start off in the West region. Gonzaga, and in a playoff game, so obviously we'll go with Gonzaga in that matchup. The number 8 seed, Oklahoma, versus the number 9 seed, Missouri. So we got two. Oh, this is an interesting one. Oklahoma, Missouri. I like Oklahoma. I'm going to go with Oklahoma in this one. And again, guys, this is just for fun. There isn't going to be a lot of analysis. I wanted to, I'm not going to fool you guys. We're going to keep it 100. You guys know I don't follow college basketball like that. But there are some outliers, and we're going to see if we can do something fun. We got Creighton at UCSB. We'll go with Creighton in that matchup. Virginia, Ohio, we're going to go chalk so far. We'll go Virginia and Ohio. How about this one? Drake or Wichita versus USC. And it's a 6-11. Let's see what we have. Let's see any information that they give us here if you're watching us live on it. Wichita State. Yeah, I mean, it's not the same Wichita State. That's the one thing that I have heard some of the Sharks say is it's not the same team that you're going to think over history. So we'll go with USC on this one. We'll keep going chalk. Kansas, East Washington. We'll go with Kansas, obviously. Jayhawks, Oregon, VCU. I'll go with VCU in that matchup. How about Iowa, Grand Canyon? We'll go with Iowa, the Big Ten. A good showing from Iowa. I actually like Iowa a lot. We'll go East. It is Michigan. Obviously, on that one, we'll go LSU. Let's see some of these stats. Let's see what it breaks it down over here. It is users pick 70% are picking LSU. And interesting. Yeah, we'll go LSU on that one. Let me know what you guys are picking in these matchups too as well. Colorado, Georgetown. I'm going to go with Georgetown in that matchup. I like Georgetown. And obviously, shout out to Patrick Ewing. Let that man into Madison Square Garden. Colorado's a good team, but we'll see. I'll go with Georgetown, a 12 over a 5. Florida State, UNCG. We'll go Florida State. Florida State could be a good team. They can make a little bit of a run if they get lucky. BYU, Michigan State, UCLA. This is a fun one, right? Because I like BYU. I think BYU is a really good team. Watch a couple of the games, but I mean, what a tough out. What a tough out for that matchup. Just for fun, I'm going to go with the Michigan State UCLA matchup. Texas, Abilene Christian. I'm actually going to go with Abilene Christian. Texas is good, right? And I like Shaka Smart. But there's an upset brewing, and I think this is the type of team that just, and I could be wrong again, speaking out of my booty, but I don't know if this is the type of team, the type of roster that seems like a one and done, whether that's a win or not. So I'll go with Abilene Christian. And I keep saying it wrong. I can't pronounce it. Take a sip of my cafecito. Excuse me, my tea. Connecticut and Maryland. I'm going to go with Connecticut in this matchup. I like the Big Ten, but Connecticut back in the national championship since their sanctions. I'm going to go with them. Alabama, Iona. Look at Alabama can make a run. Sincerely. Like, this is a good team. Iona's coached really well, guys, but I'm going to go with Alabama in that matchup. It's going to be interesting to see. That right there is a bracket buster. Let's go over here now in the Midwest. No, you know what? We'll say in the Midwest because it's a local thing. Let's go to the South. Baylor versus Hartford. Baylor, the number one over. Gonzaga was over there, but Baylor going to have a tough matchup. Going to say that they were the number one seed. Look at this. North Carolina versus Wisconsin. I'll tell you this much. Baylor is going to be in trouble because I think North Carolina is going to get through Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not a good team. And, you know, they can make a deep run. It is a good school, but I like North Carolina in that matchup. Villanova versus Winthrop. I'm going to go with Winthrop in that one. Villanova, obviously, you know how I feel about that organization or that institute, but we'll go Winthrop. How about Purdue versus North Texas? I like North Texas. Purdue's a good team, but I like North Texas in that one. We'll go Texas Tech, Utah State. I will go with Utah State. How about Arkansas, Colgate? I'll go Arkansas in that matchup. That's going to be a lot of points, so that should be a fun one to see the over on it. Florida versus Virginia Tech, a 7-10. I'll go with Florida in that matchup. I'll go with the SEC. And Ohio State versus Oral Roberts. Ohio State, one of the good teams. They can win the whole damn thing. We'll go with Ohio State. And in the Midwest, we'll go with the number one seed, Illinois. Now, Loyola, Chicago, Georgia Tech. You know, Loyola, Chicago is going to do what they do, and that's play defense. They're going to make it dirty. I'm going to go with Loyola in that matchup just to see if we can get U of I versus Loyola. Tennessee, Oregon State. You know, this is an interesting one because Oregon State made a little bit of a run. I'll go with Tennessee, but we'll see if that magic is over. Oklahoma State, Liberty. We'll go Oklahoma State. San Diego State, Syracuse. I'm going to go with Syracuse in that matchup. Let's see if they can get back to, right and make a little bit of a run. West Virginia versus Morehead State. We'll go West Virginia. Clemson versus Rutgers. We'll go Rutgers. Why not? Let's go Big Ten. Let's go Big Ten. And Houston versus Cleveland State. We will go with Houston. Let's move on over then to Gonzaga versus Oklahoma. Look, I don't know if Gonzaga's for real and Oklahoma going to put up points, athletic, but I'm going to go with Gonzaga in that matchup. Creighton versus Virginia, we'll go with Creighton. USC, Kansas, I will go Kansas, and VCU, Iowa, I will go with Iowa. Very chalky on that one. Let's go to the East. Michigan versus LSU. This is, again, an interesting one. How good is Michigan? Are they healthy? I mean, we'll see what Juwan Howard does. I'll go with Michigan in that matchup. That one I'm not feeling great about. Georgetown, Florida State, I will go with Florida State in that matchup. And then in this one, this is what happens when you don't have BYU going on. Michigan State or UCLA, I would go with Michigan State. I think Michigan State's the team that's going to be making that run. Connecticut, Alabama. I'll go with Alabama. But man, what if Connecticut gets past them? You know, like that's the thing. And what if Alabama does make a run to the... I don't know. Now I'm starting to second guess myself because Connecticut might not even get past. I'll go smart. I'll go chalk. I'll go Alabama on that one. But remember here how hard I was to make sure I wanted to go with that one. Let's see. We have Baylor versus North Carolina. Wow. Baylor versus North Carolina. 1 versus 8. I'll go with Baylor. I'll go with the better team. That'll be fun. Winthrop, North Texas, I'll go Winthrop. Man, Winthrop making a little bit run all the way to the Sweet 16. Look at them. Utah State versus Arkansas, I will go with Arkansas. At Florida State, Ohio State, I will go with Ohio State on that matchup. U of I versus Loyola. Sadly, for some reason, the committee wanted to put these two teams against each other so early. With that, U of I will move on. In Tennessee versus Oklahoma State, I will go on with Oklahoma State. Syracuse versus West Virginia, I will go with West Virginia. And Houston versus Rutgers, I will go with Houston. We move on. We have ourselves a Gonzaga versus Creighton matchup. I will go with Gonzaga. Kansas versus Iowa, I will go with Kansas. In the Michigan versus Florida State matchup, I will go with Michigan. And in the Alabama versus the 11 seed matchup, I will go with Alabama winning in that round, whether it's Michigan State or UCLA. We move on up. The Baylor versus Winthrop, I will go with Baylor. And in Arkansas versus Ohio State, I will go with Ohio State. And finally, Illinois versus Oklahoma State, I will go with U of I. And Houston versus West Virginia, I will go with Houston. So let's move on it. This is it. This is what? The Elite 8. Let's see. I have Gonzaga and Kansas. Oh boy. This is an interesting matchup. Kansas or Gonzaga. Let's take a look at some of these stats that they have here. Net rank 1 and 11th. Record versus top 25. 8 and 6 versus 4 and 0. Strength of schedule 15th to 34th. And I like a lot of what Kansas is saying. Gonzaga is going to put up a lot of points. Interesting matchup. Last 10 games. 8 and 2 for Kansas. 10 and 0 for Gonzaga. You know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with Kansas. I'm going to say they move on to the Final Four. Michigan, Alabama. I will go with Alabama. And if we move on in, we have Baylor versus Ohio State. I will go with Ohio State. And in the Illinois-Houston matchup, I will go with Illinois, which gets us to our Final Four. Kansas, Alabama, Ohio State, Illinois. A 3 and a 2, a 2 and a 1. This is a fun matchup. I mean, am I going to go with the state school in Illinois? I'll be honest with you. In the beginning of the season, I tried so hard to put money on U of I, but we can't do that legally here. So I had to ask a friend in a different state to put that down for me. So I've had U of I going to the national championship since the beginning of the season. It was who was going to be on the other side. And I think it is going to be Alabama versus U of I in the national championship game. And I am going for it. I am going for U of I. You didn't come here for facts. You didn't come here for stats. You came here to see my bracket get busted. And there's no way better than for that to happen, for my state school to do it. That is it, friends. No more. You get no more. I have nothing left to give to you guys. It was a fun Monday. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Please make sure you guys are sharing us, joining us, doing all the fun stuff. That is right. U of I will win the national championship. Thank you all so much for making us a part of your day. We are all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. You can follow the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere in the universe at Mercado Airwaves, Patreon, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify. We love you guys. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network.